And action. Okay. This is the Town of Woodbridge Board of Finance monthly meeting for Thursday, October 15th, 2015. And the first item on our agenda is public comments, and seeing no one in the audience, we'll move on to item 2, which is Administrative Officer, Director of Finance report, Tony.
Okay, thank you, Matt. This is our numbers here. In front of you are for the first quarter of the fiscal year. And the first quarter of the fiscal year has a budgetary surplus of about $65,000. And it's still early yet in the year, but I want to just bring a few issues to your attention. Intergovernmental revenues are projected as surplus about $52,000. As you are aware, we have been awarded just shy of $70,000 from FEMA, but because the award came in essentially after 60 days, we usually use 60 days as our cutoff for receivable. We're going to book it this year instead of last year. So, however, the governor has announced rounds of municipal aid reductions, and ours so far stands at $16,766.
God forbid we lose that.
So, and they're to pilot grants.
Well, thank God we didn't have a lot to begin with.
We don't have a lot. That's right.
Exactly.
That's exactly the point.
You know,
Some towns they put spending freezes on.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember. Was it Hamden? I think it might have been Hamden.
Right.
They had to freeze their expenditures because they were.
So the net of the two is still a positive $52,000. The other, are you aware, is a debt service savings of $12,684. What it's not in this memo, which Dr. Stella spoke to last night, is that the Board of Ed currently has approximately just shy of $250,000 deficit, mostly due to special education. And so that's something for you to consider. I also don't have in here the returned funds from Amity, which is a little over $300,000.
Mhm.
So maybe there's a balance there that perhaps can be worked out.
Yeah.
So those are our highlights so far.
Okay. How about the audit?
Tomorrow is their last day of field work, and we finished a week early because they had everything nice and orderly. And so anyway, they hope to have a draft to us, which would be great, by the end of the month, which is a little early for us, but we hope to have our draft by the end of the month. And just a couple of things we're waiting on. This year, we're part of the Municipal Employees Retirement Fund, and previous to this year, would just be a footnote in our audit. But this year, the state is removing the liability from their books, putting it on our books, in terms of the unfunded, or it's an accounting exercise because it's not really a monetary thing, but we'll have the liability. Luckily, the municipal fund is well funded because they basically tell us what to fund and we have to pay, not like the state plans, which are sometimes not well funded. So I don't anticipate it to be a huge problem, but we have to wait for that information. That's one of the last things probably that are what's holding us up.
Okay.
Tony,
So
do you?
I also,
go ahead,
I also
Sandy.
heard that McGladrey is changing their name to RPM.
Right, I did hear that too. Yeah.
RPM.
I know it's.
I don't know if they're a bigger conglomerate
They've
now?
changed their name several times. It was RSM McGladrey and
Gladry and Poland.
McGladrey and Poland, right?
Right.
McGladrey. Now it's RPM. Is that what it is?
RPM, I think it is. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I don't know what it stands for, but
Tony, do you know what percent of the municipal fund is funded at? I don't know.
But last time I went, this was last spring, went to a conference, state treasurer's conference. It's maybe in the high 80s to 90%.
That's
Yeah.
incredible.
Yeah.
Great.
So,
Okay. Woodbridge Board of Ed, Sandy, you going to talk about that?
I will do that.
Okay. Tony, the fiscal year 17 budget memo, just some guidelines?
that's just guidelines for you to take a look at. If you have
Okay.
any other thoughts, you could either tell me now or pass them along to me at your convenience.
Okay. And Country Club of Woodbridge follow-up, supplemental information. Did somebody submit questions? Is that what this was about?
Correct.
Oh.
I got questions from various members of both boards,
Okay.
and these are the questions we received and the answers to those questions.
Yeah, so we could, I looked at them on the website.
There'll be more talk about, probably more discussion
Right.
on the 28th. maybe?
Yeah.
Yes.
These are very well done, though.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
So if you read through them, and you have any follow-ups to these,
Lot
just
of
let me know and
information,
we'll,
yeah.
yeah.
Okay. Anything else, Tom?
No, that's it.
While we're on Country Club, rather than wait till my report, I thought I would just say what the next steps are that we see right now. We're doing the tours for the two boards. We had our first tour this afternoon. Of course, they're special meetings and open to the public, and a few members of the public accompanied us on the tour.
Yep.
Tony, thank you very much for leading the tour. We had Brad Parsons was there to answer questions, and Joe Capucci, the fire marshal, was there, and that's important because we toured parts of the building that are not open to the public now because the fire marshal doesn't want people there, so we kept everyone together, and it was informative and
Yeah.
helpful. I think Paul
Yeah.
and Sandy were there.
Yep.
And I
And
hope,
David.
And David,
David,
right, right. And then the next tour is next week. On the 28th, we have our joint meeting. At that time, we can go over the answers to these questions, see if there's anything else. And Toll Brothers will be at that meeting to talk about they have different iterations of their proposal because different selectmen have asked them different things over time. So it's kind of like an informal negotiation of their original proposal. What I've talked about to the Board of Selectmen, and I would say here also, I think what's very important for us to get to next steps on this is that everyone have a common base of facts and common understanding so that people aren't saying things that aren't correct and that are misleading. And that's why one of the facts we have is what Toll is prepared to do. We don't have anything else in that regard. Last night, Tony Anastasio said one of the things that he felt was missing that he'd been asking for is the cost of simply keeping the property as open space. And we had a good discussion about that where it became clear that you can't simply ask what's the cost of open space.
Right.
There are many decisions that have to be made about how are you defining it? Do you want it open to the public, closed to the public? Do you want trails? Do you want it just to go wild? So nobody was prepared to say what he or she thought it meant. And today, Tony and Adam and I sat down and came up with a kind of a rubric for open space. It's not the only way you can do it, but it's a way to look at the property as open space and have some idea of what that would cost. So I hope we'll have those numbers for the 28th, as well as the toll numbers, so we'll have some concrete options that we know about to talk about, and of course any other questions that come up. And I would urge all of you, if there are other facts that you think you need in order to form an opinion about what to do next and evaluate proposals, please let us know and we'll try to research the information in advance.
And that's the 28th at 6 o'clock right here.
Correct.
And it'll be on the website.
It might be at
And it'll be
6:30.
posted where it's supposed to be posted.
It's always
6:30,
posted.
I think you're right. I think you made it
I believe
6:30.
it's 6:30, and it's a special meeting. And the way special meetings get posted is when the agenda is filed. And generally, agendas are not finalized, as you know, until just before the meeting. So for a special meeting, they are filed the day before, generally. It was requested last night that if we had a draft agenda, we send it out early, and I'll be glad to do that. Just like for our Board of Selectmen meetings, we send a draft agenda, but you don't post a draft agenda. Things can change, it can be canceled, there can be no meeting, so it's very misleading to the public to go too far into a special meeting way in advance. But certainly there's nothing secret about the meeting, and the public is welcome to attend.
We can show it on the calendar. There's
Yeah.
going to be a meeting.
We can probably do that. Our calendar is a little bit. We could. Okay,
Yeah.
good. And
Yeah, I mean, I've seen many times, a meeting is noted on the calendar,
Yes.
but when you go to the agendas, it's not there
it's
yet.
not there. Yeah.
So,
So
Well, it's
yep,
on
that's the
there.
plan. Okay.
okay. I don't want any problems.
Great.
All right. Funding requests. I think we just have one, and
Yep.
I think we were made aware of this at a point in time that the registrars of voters have to become certified, which means they have to take a class,
Right.
and this is a $4,000 expense,
Yeah.
and we don't really have a choice.
It's an unfunded mandate.
Right.
I like to say.
So I will move acceptance of request for funding 1516-04 in the amount of $4,000.
Second?
Any discussion on this? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Approval of minutes. We have in front of us the minutes of our last meeting, September 19th, and I'll move acceptance of the minutes of the September 17th, excuse me, Board of Finance meeting as presented. Andy seconds. Any corrections, adjustments, suggestions, anything like that? No? All those in favor? Aye? Ellen?
Thank you. There are two upcoming events that I wanted to mention. One is this coming Tuesday, October 20th at 6:30 at the library. It's the first in our Wisdom of Woodbridge series of lectures. We have so many extraordinary people in town, and I thought it would be a great idea to invite them to do lectures throughout the year. So the first one will be Tuesday. It's Dr. Mary Papazian, who's the head of Southern Connecticut State University. She's a terrific speaker. I think it'll be a wonderful talk. Again, it's at 6:30 at the library, and some of the talks will be held at the JCC and some at the library. We have more of a working relationship with the JCC so that we can use some of their facilities, and they'll be publicizing that. On October 29th at 5:30 at Birchwoods, you've all been invited to the Economic Development Conference. This is sponsored by the New Haven Chamber of Commerce and the Connecticut Economic Resource Center. And they'll be helping our boards and commissions understand the roles that each of us plays in economic development in town. It's not just the Economic Development Commission, but Recreation, the library, all the different commissions. They do this in different towns. They will provide dinner at Birchwoods. So I hope you can make an effort to attend. I think it'll be very informative for boards and commissions. A few other things.
Where is Birchwood?
Oak Lane Country Club.
Oh,
It's the restaurant.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, I
Thank
should have
you.
said that. On Tuesday night, the Amity and Woodbridge Historical Society had a surprise party for Don Menzies, who's retiring as the head. He's been there, I think, for over 20 years.
Wow.
And he actually was surprised. It was a lovely event. They held it at the New England Brewery, so it was a nice time also to highlight one of our local establishments. Also, I had organized a meeting about the construction at Route 63 and 67. That state project has been going on for some time. It's a state project, so I invited State DOT, and Senator Crisco and Representative Clarities came to meet with the residents to hear their concerns and take questions for DOT. As some of you know, I held a meeting at the Mother Church for residents in the Amity District, for residents. I've heard from some businesses who had wanted to be there, but this was for residents, not for businesses. In this community, there are some issues of common concern, and I hear quite a bit about them. So we went to the community to report on progress on many of the issues. I want to thank Tony for being there. We didn't get to Tony's report, because we only had the room for a certain amount of time, but we had many of our department heads. We had a representative from the Department of Transportation, and there were very substantive reports about progress we've made. And we also had the opportunity to hear from some residents about some new issues. So I think that was a good thing to do for the community. Some people expressed their frustration at issues that they felt had been going on for 10 or 20 years. And I certainly understand the frustration, but I also felt it was important to be there and let them know that I'm working on those issues. I also want to mention, you probably know this, Matt, but I'm also the liaison to Amity. So I go to the regular meetings, and at the September meeting, they approved the lease for the fuel cell with United Illuminating. So that's very important for the progress on the microgrid. So now I think next steps will be really moving along with all the progress on the microgrid. And I'll also mention that I am the liaison for the Board of Selectmen to the Government Access Television Commission. And I want to say that the most important issue facing the commission is the need for additional videographers. And I told Pua I would say that wherever I go. So we often have students who help out, but it doesn't have to be students, adults, anyone who's interested in being a videographer, please contact Pua at Town Hall. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Can I make a comment?
Yeah.
That meeting that you held, I thought
worked out really well. Despite some people who made an effort to disrupt the meeting, I think that was, very ill-placed, that view, because there were residents who really appreciated, apparently, the opportunity to have their voices heard. You clearly haven't been in office for decades, as some people mentioned. I thought you handled it and was very sensitive, despite some of the disruptive tone. And I thought the employees of town, these department heads, acted in such a wonderful manner, that they treated everyone with such respect, even though that wasn't the tone of some. I mean, Terry Gilbertson, Warren Connors, Deputy Chief Stewart, they did a marvelous job. They exhibited genuine concern to all the residents, and really seemed sensitive to the needs of the community, and really tried to address them and let them know some things can't be done overnight, but that they were interested, they were listening. I thought all the departments did a wonderful job, including you. And I was also a little stunned that some people criticized the fact that the meeting was held there. Why in the world would you not hold the meeting where there were issues? Most of us got caught in traffic going there, so you knew that there was a big traffic issue. I thought that was, a lot of people even walked there. You were in a community that I go to church there. I feel so much a part of that community. I love it. I think the residents are wonderful. I was just so proud that you were having a meeting there to address the needs of these wonderful people who had things they wanted to be heard. It was kind of sad that some of their own neighbors caused the disruption and set such an ill tone. But Selectman Scalatar, Tony, the department, everybody did a wonderful job. I think it's a great first step, and you showed that maybe no one was listening for decades, but somebody is listening now, and I think that's the important part. So,
Thank you very much.
I agree. I was there also. I was there mainly as Father Gene wanted me to open it up and lock it down, so I was sitting there waiting. But I agree. There was some disruptive events going on there, but I think they came with the idea of disrupting it. But I learned things that night that I wasn't aware of. The Department of Transit. I always said, this traffic. There's got to be something you can do about it. And not realizing we can't do anything about it. These are state roads, and they're going to just determine what's going to happen. I've said many times when I drive there in the morning, why don't we have police officers here directing traffic? And Ray Stewart said, if we start moving traffic, we're going to disrupt the traffic lights. The traffic lights get you in and out of there. If we start having an officer on Lucy Street telling cars to go, it's not going to work. You'd have to literally shut down all the traffic lights, and it's not going to happen. So unfortunately, it's one, on Amity Road and on Litchfield Turnpike, there's one lane in and one lane out, and there's not much more you can do. So as Ray Stewart said, there's a lot of police presence there. He said more so. There was people saying that there's more police presence up in the top end of Woodbridge than down there, and he said quite contrarily, they spend more man hours there with speeding traps and with they've got the box down there, I guess, or if you stop in the box, they're trying to engage that. So I was, and then to listen to the Department of Transportation person, you realize how difficult a job it is to straighten the traffic out down there. Believe it or not, they're talking about cutting a third tunnel in West Rock.
that was interesting.
I guess they're gonna fix the southbound tunnel, the southbound tunnel going towards New York. Then they're gonna make the middle tunnel like a storage area, and they're gonna cut a new northbound tunnel through. Yeah, that's what he was saying. It's in the works. Of course, it's down the road, but
So to speak.
it was. Yeah. But it was. At first I said, I don't know why do we have the State
Why don't they
Department of
just go over the
Transportation?
top?
Yeah. I said, why don't
We need another.
just remove the mountain? Why do we have the Department of? But after listening to him, he brought out a lot of. Again, it's not things that necessarily some people that night wanted to hear, but there's no easy fix for that problem. Some people were complaining about Starbucks. Why did Starbucks open? Well, it's a commercial plaza. You can't stop them from renting to commercial, and it is. I'm sure it's a traffic situation. You have a number of businesses in that plaza that draw a lot of cars, and it is. It's coming out of there and trying to take a left if there's cars. It's impossible. But you can't say to that property owner, you can't have a Starbucks there. If it's zoned for that, it's zoned for that. So there was a lot. I was impressed though. A lot of the people who sat in the front and seemed to they brought up some tremendous points. They have a problem with littering. They have a problem with people speeding. There's a lot of situations down there, but it's a main drag, and it's a main road for people heading up towards Waterbury and Prospect and whatever. But there were a lot of, despite what you read in the paper, there were some people there was one guy who was completely off the wall about something. But a lot of the people who sat brought up some tremendously valid points, and it seemed they wanted to be there. And so I agree. I think it was a good first step for the people who were there. I had a woman sitting behind me who just kept apologizing for what was going on. She said, "This isn't the way it is down here." She said, "A lot of these people just all they want to do is cause a ruckus." Unfortunately, that's become the norm in Woodbridge. At the budget hearing, you were there, you saw what happened. At the swearing-in ceremony, you saw what happened. And unfortunately, we just don't seem to be able to have meetings anymore where people can express their views without somebody yelling and
It's
screaming.
not being civil anymore.
It is. Civility is gone in these meetings, and I think it's an intentional thing. But again, despite the fact that there were some uproars, I thought there was a tremendous amount of information. Terry Gilbertson spoke about blight, and again, it's not the easiest thing in the world to force somebody to clean their property. You can warn them, you can fine them, but one of the properties that they were very concerned about is owned by the group that's going to develop the project down there, and they're insisting they can use this for this project. So, and Warren Connors explained about drainage problems, and I thought a tremendous amount of information was disseminated that night, and I think a lot of people who were there to find out were truly informed by. I know I learned a lot about traffic patterns and all that stuff. There's no easy fix to it. So. Despite what you read in the paper, yes, there were some disruptions, and I was accused of being the person who arranged to have the meeting at the church, which is absolutely not the truth. I had nothing to do with it. I'm just Father Gene's custodian in these occasions. So, but I agree. When I heard about it, I said, well, that's these people, the people of the flats, which I think is a wonderful term. It's they built that church with their own hands, and this is their heritage. I know as a representative of the church, Andy can tell you too, there's been discussions in Hartford about shutting that church down, and these people don't want to hear it. And Father Gene has fought to keep that church open. So this is the flats, that the Assumption Church down there. So when I heard that they wanted to have it there, but it ended up being turned into a negative, which made no sense to me. They said, well, we should have had it here. We couldn't have fit half of the people in this room. And I thought it was a good setting, but that's the way it is today. You try to do something positive, and somehow or another they twist it into a negative. So, but I agree with Karen. I thought a tremendous amount of information was passed out that night, and I learned a great deal from it. So I'm sure at some point we could follow up on it. So, and that'll be my only liaison report because the Amity's meeting this coming Monday. So I'll report probably 2 meetings at our next meeting. Paul.
Same thing with the fire commission. We're meeting on Monday.
Okay.
So
Double reporting.
Yeah,
Karen.
I'll report 2 times.
EMS didn't meet, but I did go to Human Services on October 5th. We should be getting the new bus any day now. Should be rolling into town. And let's see, on the Senior Center, there's going to be a Generations of Culture Festival held at the Amity High School on October 22nd. And the holiday fair is scheduled for Saturday, November 7th. There will be a flu clinic October 19th and Tuesday, October 20th. It's open to everyone. And the Senior Center policy and procedures were approved. That's something they've been working on, and happy to have that approved. And the youth services, the after-school programs are cooking and digital photography, and those are well attended. And they're having a Bethwood Bash, the costume party, which is apparently a big hit every year, October 23rd. So all is well at Human Services.
Sure.
Big part of the meeting was an executive session, but I think overtime still, based on staffing, is still a problem. And I believe they're getting to a point where that issue is going to get resolved very quickly. And the only other thing was traffic, and it's about the grids down at Lucy Street. And they're going to put another grid at Landon Street. The problem is that nobody really pays any attention to it, and they're always in the grid. So what they talked about doing is posting a sign. And apparently the town could set the fine. So if there's points against your license, and the fine could be $250, it can be $450 if you get caught in a grid. So part of that recommendation is post a sign so people can, big enough so people can see it, that tells you if you're in that grid, you get so many points to get your license, and your fine is going to be substantial. And maybe that may have some effect in keeping people out of there. Because what really happens is that if anybody uses that road daily, no one pays attention to it. They'll come and block the intersection, so therefore, if you're taking a left-hand turn, you can't take the left-hand turn. So that was basically it.
How are they doing staff? And we always hear issues, they don't have enough guys, who's hurt. Do they have
Well,
any
I
in the
think
academy, for example?
some of their, I think that they're hiring, well, they have 2 people coming on board that and have been in school. And I think that some of the issues with people that were on leave are being resolved. 2
Two are
people
going to be resolved.
are going to be, so that allows them then to fill those positions.
Move on.
Right.
And once those positions are filled, their staffing will be back to normal.
Okay. No. Sandy?
I did not go to the library commission meeting on Tuesday, but I do have some notes from that meeting. And there were new committee assignments were announced. They do that every year in terms of when they get new members. And they did spend some money on new computers and new wireless equipment. And I had mentioned before the need to do this, and Alliance supporting a broader network, and there only being one network as opposed to 4 networks, which will make it much easier so that as you move around the library, you're on the same wireless system. They are going to be requesting $30,000 for new carpeting in their capital budget for the children's area, so we will be the recipients of that. And they are partnering with Long Wharf Theater. It's going to be for Shakespeare's Measure for Measure, which is going to be in November and December. That was a very successful program last year, and they want to do it again. And they did go into executive session for the director's review, which they approved. And then I was actually at the Board of Education Finance Committee meeting. They were at the same time on Tuesday. And as Matt indicated and Tony indicated, that they do have a deficit projection of $244,000, and it is related to special education. They will put that into their budget for next year, but again, as we know, they can't predict what those expenses might be, because they could be less, they could be more. And they will try to find whatever they can in their current budget. All their other programs are doing fine in terms of the extended day, the cafeteria, no other deficit areas at this point. So it was great to hear, Tony, that the Amity offset might be there, which would be great. And they did prepare their capital budget. They're going to present that at their board meeting. They will be asking for money to pave the back driveway, which is used by the first responders in the back of the building. It's not actually wide enough, and it is starting to crumble also. That will be their ask for this year. And they do have a 5-year projection forecast. I don't know if they'll be sharing that with the board or not. But they will have something that they can present when they come and do their operating budget. So, and enrollment is at 779, which is up from last year. That was actually the projection. The actual for the actual last year it was 797, so it was almost 800 students. So this was the demographic projection, but they are a little above that level for this year. So we're continuing to add more children.
Yeah,
That's it.
you had a building committee meeting. Anything of interest there? I know you mentioned a couple of things.
Oh yeah, we didn't talk about that.
Tony, you want me to say? Yeah, they had most of that meeting was taken up talking about the automatic door locks that they put on the doors. And there's that we defined what we wanted to accomplish with the door locks. And apparently the software program they have and the panels they have cannot accomplish that. And I guess during the day, the teachers need the ability to open those doors and close those doors. And once those doors are closed, right now, they don't have the ability to do that. So, software program, so now they've come up with a fix. Our position is that's between the system designer and the contractor, and it really has nothing to do with us. And that's the position we're taking. So, you know, we've been very firm on that, and I believe that that's really the case. Now they have found the solution. So they have a solution to the problem, changing out the panels, and they can put a button on the door locks that allows them to release the lock. So
From the inside.
from the inside. So therefore, that's basically why that special meeting was called. And that's where we are.
I will say that I saw the lower level parking lot. It's the first time since I moved to Woodbridge 24 years ago that there's no trailer.
Yeah.
Right.
All the parking spaces are marked.
Right.
It's
But they did a nice
beautiful.
job.
Nice, they did a nice
Beautiful.
job.
Beautifully done.
Really nice. Really
And
nice.
there was a little money left over from that project, and they repaved the pathway up to the recreation department
Office.
also.
Yeah.
So that was an added bonus, but the paving was really,
It looks
really
really
well done.
nice.
Yeah, they did a
Really
nice job.
nice.
But also, just to find out, the program is on schedule, and you know, it's on schedule and it's going to be completed, and they've done a nice job.
Yeah. I think the project was very well executed.
Very well executed.
Yeah.
You know, they really adhered to the schedule and was very well executed, and they did a very, very
So they
good
should be
job.
substantially complete by the end of the year?
That's the game.
Yep,
Yep.
Yeah.
that's the idea.
Okay. Anything else? Accept the motion to adjourn? Yes.
Those questions sheet, is that electronically? And I don't
Yes,
have.
Betsy
Yeah,
Yaglis.
I got an email today for that.
An email, Betsy
From
Yaglis.
Betsy
sent-
today?
Yeah.
Ye- Yesterday.
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 Those questions,
Yesterday.
all right, I'll go, then I have to have a copy of that.
I'll second it.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Next time we meet, it'll be just before Thanksgiving.
That's right.